The crystal chandeliers of Le Jardin cast warm light across the elegant dining room where Chicago's elite gathered for intimate celebrations and important business dinners. The soft murmur of sophisticated conversation mixed with the gentle clink of fine china and crystal stemware. Nina Romano moved gracefully between tables in her server's uniform of white blouse and red skirt. Her dark hair pulled back professionally as she delivered impeccable service to the wealthy patrons who rarely noticed the staff around them. At 29, Nina had been working at Le Jardin for 4 years while raising her 6-year-old son Marco alone. Her dreams of culinary school postponed indefinitely by the practical demands of single motherhood. Tonight, however, Nina had agreed to something that made her stomach churn with guilt. A woman named Veronica Hart had approached her 2 days ago with an unusual proposition. $5,000 to subtly sabotage a blind date happening at table 12 that evening. $5,000 would pay 3 months of rent, buy Marco new clothes for school, and possibly even allow Nina to enroll in a single culinary course. The money would change their lives, at least temporarily, and Veronica had assured her the sabotage would be harmless. Just small disruptions to ensure the date went poorly. As Nina prepared table 12, she tried to suppress her moral discomfort by reminding herself that rich people recovered quickly from bad dates, while struggling single mothers needed every opportunity they could get. At 7:30, a man arrived and was seated at table 12. Nina recognized him immediately from business magazines and local news. Christopher Bennett, CEO of Bennett Global Investments, and one of Chicago's most eligible bachelors. At 36, Christopher was known for both his business acumen and his dedication to his 8-year-old daughter following his divorce 3 years ago. Christopher looked uncomfortable in the formal setting, adjusting his gray suit jacket and checking his phone with the nervous energy of someone who hadn't dated in years. His friends had insisted on setting up this blind date, claiming he needed to start living again instead of just existing for work and parenting. 10 minutes later, his date arrived. The woman in the stunning red dress wasn't his intended date, however. Veronica Hart had orchestrated an elaborate scheme where she would pose as Christopher's blind date while Nina sabotaged the evening, ensuring Christopher would be so disgusted with blind dates that he would never agree to another. Setup. What Nina didn't know was that Veronica was Christopher's former college girlfriend who had never accepted that he had chosen someone else years ago, married, and built a life without her. This sabotage was Veronica's twisted attempt to position herself back into his life by first destroying his confidence in dating. As the evening began, Nina started her assigned tasks. She spilled water, just a small amount, near Christopher's side of the table. She forgot to bring the bread basket they requested. She delivered their appetizers to the wrong table initially, requiring them to wait an additional 10 minutes. But as Nina executed each small disruption, she found herself increasingly disturbed by what she observed. Christopher wasn't the arrogant, wealthy executive she had imagined. He was kind to her despite the mistakes, apologizing when she spilled water as if it were his fault, and thanking her genuinely for every service she provided. More importantly, Nina could see that Christopher wasn't enjoying his date at all. Veronica dominated every conversation, name-dropped constantly, and showed no interest in anything Christopher said about his daughter or his charitable work. She seemed focused entirely on impressing him with her own accomplishments and connections. "Tell me about your daughter," Veronica said at one point, clearly performing interest rather than feeling it. "What's her name again?" "Olivia," Christopher replied, his face softening with genuine love. "She's 8 and she's the most remarkable person I know. She's going through a phase where she wants to understand how everything works. So we've been doing science experiments in the kitchen every weekend." "That's nice," Veronica said dismissively, immediately pivoting to discuss a recent luxury vacation. "Speaking of weekends, I just returned from the Riviera where I stayed at the most exclusive resort." Nina watched Christopher's expression close off slightly, recognizing the look of a parent who had just realized their conversational partner wasn't actually interested in the thing they loved most. As Nina brought their main courses, She accidentally on purpose delivered the wrong entree to Christopher. But as she placed the incorrect dish in front of him, she felt such profound guilt that she couldn't go through with the rest of Veronica's plan. "I'm so sorry." "Mr. Bennett," Nina said, her voice carrying genuine apology, "I brought you the salmon instead of the steak you ordered. Let me correct this immediately." Christopher smiled at her with surprising warmth. "Please don't worry about it. Honestly, the salmon looks delicious, and I'm flexible about my dinner choice. But I appreciate your attention to getting things right." That moment of unexpected kindness was Nina's breaking point. She couldn't continue sabotaging a good man's evening just because someone was paying her to do so. The money would have helped Marco, but she couldn't teach her son that integrity was negotiable when the price was high enough. Nina excused herself and went to the kitchen, texting Veronica that she couldn't continue with the plan and would be returning the advance payment she had received. Then she returned to table 12 and provided the impeccable service she took pride in, determined to at least give Christopher a pleasant dining experience even if his date remained disappointing. As the evening progressed, Veronica's true nature became increasingly apparent. She was rude to Nina and other staff. She checked her phone constantly, and she seemed more interested in being seen at an exclusive restaurant with a successful man than in actually connecting with Christopher as a person. When Christopher excused himself to take a phone call from his daughter's babysitter, Veronica immediately turned to Nina with contempt. "You've completely failed at your job tonight," Veronica hissed. "He's actually enjoying himself despite your incompetence. I should have hired someone more reliable." Nina felt anger rise in her chest. "Ms. Hart, I returned your money because I won't sabotage a good man's evening. What you're doing is manipulative and wrong, and honestly, Mr. Bennett deserves much better than this." Veronica's eyes flashed with fury. "You're a waitress who will never be anything more. Don't presume to lecture me about what anyone deserves." Christopher returned to the table in time to hear Veronica's cruel words. His expression shifted from confusion to understanding as he pieced together what had been happening. "Veronica," Christopher said quietly, "I think this evening is over. I'll settle the bill and I'm going to ask you to leave." Veronica looked shocked. "Christopher, you can't seriously be upset about how I spoke to the help." "The help?" Christopher repeated, his voice carrying disappointment rather than anger. "You mean Nina, who has been providing excellent service despite whatever scheme you apparently orchestrated?" "Yes, Veronica, I am absolutely upset about how you spoke to her and about whatever manipulation you planned for this evening." He stood up and gestured for Veronica to leave. "I think we're done here." After Veronica departed in humiliated fury, Christopher sat back down and gestured for Nina to join him at the table. She hesitated, knowing this violated restaurant protocol, but something in his expression suggested this wasn't a request she should refuse. "Nina," Christopher said gently, "I heard what you told Veronica about returning money and refusing to continue sabotaging the evening. Thank you for that choice. I know $5,000 is a significant amount for anyone, but especially for someone in your position." Nina felt tears forming in her eyes. "Mr. Bennett, I'm ashamed that I agreed to it in the first place. I have a 6-year-old son, and the money would have helped us tremendously. But I couldn't teach him that we compromise our values when times get tough." Christopher's expression softened with understanding. "You're a single mother?" Nina nodded. "Marco's father left when he was a baby. I've been working here while trying to save enough to eventually go to culinary school. I want to give my son a better life than I've been able to provide so far." "Nina, what you did tonight showed more character than most people demonstrate in their entire careers," Christopher said. "You chose integrity over money despite genuine need. That's exactly the kind of person I want around my daughter and in my life." He paused, seeming to make a decision. "I'd like to offer you a position with my family. Not as a server, but as someone who could help with Olivia and perhaps pursue your culinary dreams. My daughter needs positive role models, and you clearly understand the value of making ethical choices even when they're difficult." Nina was stunned. "Mr. Bennett, you don't even know me." "I know that you had the courage to back out of a scheme even though you needed the money," Christopher replied. "I know that you take pride in your work and treat everyone with respect. And I know that my daughter would benefit tremendously from spending time with someone who demonstrates that kind of character." 6 months later, Nina had become an integral part of the Bennett household. She worked as Olivia's part-time caregiver while attending culinary school full-time, funded by Christopher's family foundation. Marco and Olivia had become close friends, and both children thrived under the attention of adults who modeled integrity and kindness. More importantly, Christopher and Nina had discovered a connection neither had been looking for. Their relationship had developed slowly and naturally, built on mutual respect, shared values about parenting, and the recognition that sometimes the best relationships begin with someone choosing to do the right thing, when it would have been easier and more profitable to do the wrong thing, the sabotage that was supposed to destroy. Christopher's confidence in dating had instead introduced him to someone who valued character over convenience and understood that true success was measured not by wealth or status, but by the choices we make when nobody is watching. Nina's decision to return Veronica's money and refuse to continue the sabotage had cost her $5,000 that evening. But it had gained her something infinitely more valuable, a career path toward her dreams, a loving partner who shared her values, and the satisfaction of knowing she had taught Marco that integrity mattered more than immediate financial gain. The server who was paid to ruin a blind date had instead found her own unexpected love story, proving that sometimes the most important choice we make is the decision to walk away from money that comes with strings attached to our conscience. Thank you for listening to this story about choosing integrity over convenience and finding love in the most unexpected circumstances. If this tale reminded you that our character is tested most when we're facing genuine financial pressure, please like this video. Share it with someone who believes that doing the right thing matters even when it's costly. And subscribe for more stories celebrating the moral courage that creates the foundation for real relationships. We'd love to hear in the comments about times when you chose ethics over money or when someone's integrity in difficult circumstances changed your opinion of them. Remember, the most valuable things in life cannot be bought, and the relationships worth having are built on mutual respect and shared values rather than manipulation and deception.